I'm violently opposed to time wasters, and you should too. This is Justin Hitt from Inside Strategic Relations. Time wasters are sucking up not just your time, but your life and costing you opportunities. I'm going to share with you 4 scenarios that you must address in your day-to-day activities. First off, it is a mindset of understanding that as a high-income professional, you're not paid for your hours. I don't work a set number of hours every day. I am not paid to be there for 8 hours. I'm paid for the results and outcomes I create. There are too many people who show up to a job to do their routine and to spend their 8 hours or their 9 hours or even more. Some people will spend 11 hours at work and complain about how tough work is. But when you really look out and do an assessment of their time, you find out that they've wasted most of it in mindless trivia that has no value. And worse, they wasted other people's time in their day-to-day activities. So understand, first off, you're not there for the hours, you're there for the outcomes. Now, in the same thing, I want you only working 8 hours a day maximum. In fact, with proper optimization, including the 80-20 principle, and we talk about that in other programs, you ought to be able to get down in 3 to 4 hours more work than the typical employee does. And now when you take, your 3 to 4 hours and you turn that into 8 hours, then you're doubling the productivity that you can deliver. Remember, it doesn't matter how much you get paid, you can always be replaced. And in fact, they try to replace the people at the top first, so you have to have a unique value in creating results and outcomes. Number 2, if you've got people around you moving around meetings last minute, that is a surefire sign that that meeting is unimportant and will be a waste of your time. Meetings start on time, meetings end on time or early. Every meeting should be set up at least 48 hours in advance with an agenda. This pisses me off a lot because I prepare for every meeting, and it's quite possible if I see there's an hour block between meetings, I might designate that hour for an activity that I'm focused on and that I'm going to complete a certain chunk of work, again, results and outcome. I might, in fact, have not eaten lunch because I work with people all over the world, all over different time zones. I may have actually, during my lunch hour, had several meetings, and now I'm taking the block between 1 and 2 to go grab a bite to eat, to catch up on some paperwork, and then that 2:30, 3 o'clock meeting gets jumped out to 1:30? Unacceptable. Unacceptable. If that meeting is so important, then you get it on the calendar, with an agenda, and then everybody can prepare, and then they can focus their effort and time on that meeting and accomplish that work without any question. You also should have minutes to the meeting. At the last couple of minutes of every meeting, you want to summarize the action items, and everybody gets an agreement on responsibility. See, you can't have forward motion if you don't have responsible parties, because when the forward motion stops, and we're going to talk about this soon, but when the forward motion stops, you need to know who's responsible for that. And not only who's responsible for that, but where do you go to get things started again? Number 3, there will always be fires until they're not. Okay? I'm tired of executives and leadership folks having these fires. They should not have fires because the people who were supposed to do the job originally need to get that job done or get fired. Now, I know I talk a big game and I actually upset people at times. If your job is to do X and X does not get accomplished, we need to replace you immediately. And that's how I see the work that I do. I've got fixed deliverables. I've got target dates. If something goes wrong, I need to speak up so everybody knows what's going on and we can get things back on track. You have to put out fires fast with a plan. And other people's failure to plan doesn't mean it's your emergency. If you don't plan something and you're coming in last minute and I quote you 3 times, 4 times what it would cost otherwise, that extra fee is for the irritation. That extra fee is for the around-the-clock schedule that might be necessary to get that job done. That fire needs to be immediately put out. See, firefighters, they don't show up at a building fire and they keep the fire going and they keep having meetings about the fire. No, they get the hoses out. They start putting out the fire using a method of triage. And that's where number 4 comes in. Number 4 is about focusing on what you can do rather than what you can't do. I was on a meeting today, And they argued for like 30 minutes about the number of items complete. Now, there's a whole big inventory of more work to be done, and there's a whole bunch of categories of work to get done, and they want to make sure the slide has the right number of items complete and that the story around the completion is fabulous. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this project started 2 days ago. The owners, the sponsors and stuff are not going to expect a miraculous. Why are you having a project if miraculously you can cut off 20% of the work right up front? Tells you it's piss poor planning. You want to focus on what you can complete and what you can do now. This is a triage where you're going to start bucketing the different tasks, and you're going to assign tasks to projects, and those projects are going to have milestones, and they're going to have a calendar, and they're going to have a means of status reporting, and they're going to have a set of meetings around it. You don't need a daily meeting for a lot of this stuff unless it's a working session. And if it's a working session, you have an agenda so everybody shows up ready to work. And ultimately, you got to focus on what you can. There's always going to be obstacles. I was explaining this to my kid. Work is always difficult. Now, here's how it is. When you first start lifting weights or you start exercising, that first lifting of the weights, maybe you got 5 pounds and you're going to do 8 reps. And it's a certain level of difficulty. 5 pounds, 8 reps, first time, maybe you're a kid. Okay? Now, you realize it starts to get easy, and now you've got to up the weight, and maybe you go to 10 pounds. Now, you're going to do the work. It's going to not be easy at the beginning, and then it's going to get easy over time. Now, what happens is it's the same level of difficulty, different amount of weights. So we want to focus on what we can do, understanding that there will be obstacles. We categorize the obstacles in, can we do something about it right now? Does it impact our current activity or outcome? And you might categorize it as something that can be done later. You don't have to talk about it. You just put it in a bucket and keep on going, because the work you decided to do right now is the most important work. And if you have that tied to results and outcome, then what you have scheduled right now is the greatest value to your day and the greatest value to your life, because why do things each day that don't impact the quality of life that you desire? Why do things each day? And I know you're saying, oh, there's just some stuff I got to do. Well, no, you don't. Nobody holds a gun up to your head and says you got to do it. There's a lot of stuff in your life you could outsource. I got a basket of laundry upstairs that's waiting for me to fold it. I don't want to fold the laundry. And the first time I used to have somebody, I would send the laundry off and it'd get folded, come back, washed and folded. It's the first day I find a service that'll do that. There's going to be a laundry day, and somebody's going to come in, and I live in a rural area, so they're going to come in, they're going to wash all the laundry, and they're going to fold in all the laundry, and they're going to put all the laundry away. Okay? That's just the way it's going to be, because I have something more valuable to do at that time. So, but you know what? I like clean clothes. So I'll fold the laundry to get it done until I find a solution. See, we have these desires. We have these target dates. And I know you say you desire to have a meeting at 1 and now we got to have it at 12. No. If you're going to get other people together, you're now impacting their time, their resources, their cycles. And in order to reduce the problem with that, you have to plan in advance, have an agenda, everybody shows up prepared, and you just execute. Now, in your day-to-day activities, you can use what we call block scheduling. Now, I go in a lot of detail about this in Get More Done, and that's a course that we go through where we survey your day. Like, how do I know that most people waste the majority of their day? Well, if they take a sheet of paper out, they take a little notepad, and they put a timeline down the left-hand column of the notepad, and then each day, see, you don't need a special form for this, by the way. Each day they write in their little time journal the activities that they're doing, and they rate those activities as contributing to the outcomes they're measured by, or not contributing to the outcomes they're measured by. They're very often find by the end of the week a wealth of information about their day and how to better plan their day. If people look at the sleeping, if you sleep 8 hours a night, 9 hours a night, and you're working 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day, that's 16 hours of your day, 16, 18 hours of your day that is gone. You may not have time to mow the grass. Well, you don't let the grass grow up long and frustrate you and get your neighbors all upset. You hire somebody to mow your grass. Well, when it comes to the workplace, that delegation, that mapping of activities to resources and outcomes is critical so that you can focus on what you do best and help others focus on what they do best, rather than having brainstorming sessions and daily status meetings that are an hour block, yet you're only spending 5 minutes. And if any of my peers or folks that I work with are listening to this, it's not you individually, okay? It is in general 4 things that you can do to make your day more productive. It's 1, understanding that as a high-income professional, you're not paid for the hours. If you can get the same work done in 6 hours, then get it done in 6, because there will be days where you're spending 10 or 12 hours to get a fire taken care of. Now, there's always going to be fires until they're not, so you need to make sure that you've got a plan to address that fire, because once you've got a plan, you can now work the plan, the fire's put out. Now, you still might have tight deadlines, but you have clear deliverables. You can start negotiating the expectations. You can start negotiating with stakeholders about what can be done and what can't be done. You can start dispositioning activities. Next is, if a meeting is going to get moved last minute, the meeting's not needed at all. You can cancel a meeting last minute, but you don't move the meeting last minute, especially move it up, because there are people who have spent time to prepare for that meeting. And if that meeting was not important and people were not going to prepare for the meeting, then you don't need to have it at all. You can simply address it with an email. And finally, you want to focus on what you can do now rather than what you've done. That's over with. You've done it already. It's done. Put a line item. This is what we've done. You want to focus on what you can do. Triage it so that you can work on something right now. You're going to take those work blocks and put them on your calendar, and you're going to take 45-minute to 90-minute sessions to just knock those out. The typical executive only gets an hour and a half of productive time each day, and it's usually broken up into little tiny 5-minute segments. You want to be able to knock out a 15-minute chunk where you have a specific deliverable finished, a 45-minute, a 90-minute chunk, specific deliverables finished. You want to do that with uninterrupted time, which means turning off your phone, which means turning off the notifications for emails, which might even mean checking your emails once or twice a day. If you need to be contacted because of an emergency, then you need to be tough on that person. There should not be any emergency in your workplace that cannot be addressed by some kind of process or procedure that would at least mitigate the problem so that they don't have to contact you. Now, if you owe materials to somebody, you don't want somebody else interrupting that, because you've got to get that work done. I'm not sure if you understand here, but you're not going to get back the time that you've wasted. Now, I have a different perspective for this because I've had a TIA stroke. I had a heart spasm. These are 2 times in my life where I was pretty sure I could die. I've been told by doctors before that I have a 60% chance of a heart attack because I've made dumb decisions. I've made decisions like my first company. I worked 3 shifts, almost 24 hours a day for weeks at a time, and it just was a bad thing to do. I work around the clock at times for other projects. This is a deficiency that I have, and I know is not working well. But the time I spent getting 9 hours of sleep at night, 10 hours of sleep at night, and started getting clarity in what was going on around me, I started recognizing the problems that a lot of people have because they're jamming everything together. They're confusing things. They're not making decisions. And this can all be handled by mechanics. A meeting with an agenda and then a meeting with minutes after you've executed on the agenda, outlining the action items that everybody's been responsible for, makes memories better. By setting meetings in advance, it allows people to plan in advance and be more prepared so the meetings are more productive. By understanding that you're working for outcomes, not hours, and also holding people accountable. Look, I don't care how long you take to do this. We're looking for an output this week. People are burning time. You want to stop that burning of time. And finally, when you're focusing on what you can do rather than what you can't do, you save yourself so much because there's a lot of stuff you can't do. But if you can do 2 or 3 things that move forward and move you towards objectives, then you're going to get those outcomes. Time wasters are sucking up your life and costing you opportunity. You must be vigorous in explaining to them and making it clear to them that they are not to have unscheduled meetings, that they are not to bring you fires and things that are that don't have even a basic outline for a plan. They don't have to have a solution. If they had a solution, they should just go fix it. But ultimately, don't just bring the fire in. Have a designated time to sit down and talk about these things. And finally, if you have any questions about this or anything else we cover, we do have a program called Get More Done. And we have time and efficiency studies that we can do around your business process management or your operational risk. These are things that are available on a limited basis to clients that don't conflict with other clients. But ultimately, if you have questions, I'll be happy to answer the questions in the context of our newsletter, Inside Strategic Relations. You can visit www.insidestrategicrelations.com, open a ticket up with us, contact us through the contact page. It's really simple. And ask your question. I will be more than happy to answer it. My staff will work through it, and we may even be able to match you up with some materials that specifically answer what you're asking about. I'm Justin Hitt with Inside Strategic Relations. I'm here to help you create and keep profitable customers and transform business relationships into profits guaranteed.